If you are an English teacher trying to grow in your career, you don't need another folder full of random activities. You need to know why your lessons work, why they sometimes fail, and how to turn your classroom experience into real professional growth. I'm Rashid, an IELTS certified teacher trainer. I help ELT teachers like you to teach more with more clarity, make better classroom decisions, and build the confidence and evidence they need for better opportunities, better future, and good money. So if you want to become a more effective, reflective, and career-ready English teacher, you are in the right place. Good? Now I give you the situation. An English teacher writes ESA, ESA at the top of a lesson plan. E stands for engage. Show 3 holiday photos. S, teach going to for future plans. A, students ask each other about their weekend. On paper, it looks perfect. But in the classroom, something feels wrong. The engage stage becomes a 2-minute guessing game that has nothing to do with the language. The study stage turns into a board lecture, and the activate stage is not really activation at all. Students are simply forcing "I'm going to" into every answer. They know the teacher is listening for it. That is the ESA trap. The letters are right, but the teaching logic is wrong. So by the end of this video, you will understand how Harmer's, because this theory is from Harmer, engage, study, activate framework actually works. And more importantly, you will know how to choose the sequence instead of simply obeying the acronym, because we can use any E or S or A or whatever. So here is the quickest diagnostic. Engage asks a simple question: why should learners care enough to pay attention? Why? Study asks a different question: what language, meaning, pronunciation, form, use, or discourse feature needs focused attention? Activate asks another different question: where do learners use language to communicate meaning rather than simply display the target item? So notice what changes when you think about ESA this way. Okay? ESA is not an order first. It doesn't care about the order, but teaching functions. That distinction matters. So whether you are teaching in a language center, a school, a private class, an online lesson, or an observed lesson, a stronger teacher is not asking, did I include ESA or ASE or whatever? No, we don't care. A stronger teacher is asking, why does this stage come now? If this way of looking at lessons is useful, like the video and subscribe. This channel is about practical ELT teacher development, so not random activity collecting or games collecting or having fun. I'm not a content creator. So remember this rule. ESA is not a recipe. It is a balance of attention, focus, and use. Let's start with engage, because this is where many lessons begin to go soft. Engage doesn't mean doing something fun before the real lesson begins. Doesn't mean having lots of games and students are jumping and flying. A game is not automatically engagement. A picture is not automatically engagement. A story is not an engagement. Question is not an engagement. A prediction task is not an engagement. Okay? Oh, all these are not engagement. They only become engagement if they pull students toward the lesson content. So imagine you are teaching language for making complaints. You show students a photo of a terrible hotel room. Maybe broken furniture, maybe dirty sheets, a leaking ceiling maybe. Then you ask a question. Would you complain if you have this room, if you go to this type of rooms, if you have this one? Are you going to complain? Would you complain or would you remain quiet? Suddenly students have a reason to think, right? They have a reason to react. They have a reason to care. They are emotionally inside the situation. It's a real situation. It happens all the time, everywhere. So they need sentences to use. They need forms. So they need these sentences to engage with this situation. So they need real language, right? Because weak engaged sages often look successful. Students laugh, students talk, energy rises, the observer may be smiling because he sees smiling faces. Energy is good, but energy is not same as engagement. A random warm-up or warmer can become a small island. Students enjoy it, then mentally reset when they have real listen. So you have to ask, what does this stage make easier later? If the answer is nothing, it is probably decoration. If it makes the context clearer, it has value. If it makes the topic more personal, it has value. If it creates a need for language, it has value. If it makes future learner easier, it has value. So good engaged sages prepare the ground. They don't simply fill time by jumping around and flying. Now let's move to study. Study is broader than many teachers think. Most teachers maybe hear the word study and immediately think grammar's explanation. But study is any moment when attention narrows, any moment when students focus on how language works. It could be grammar, it could be vocabulary, it could be pronunciation, meaning, it could be discourse, it could be studying the structure, it could be the stress patterns, it could be politeness, how ideas connect inside a text. So study can have different types, and it could be teacher-centered. Study can happen through communication, through correction, can happen after a task. The most important thing is that students are looking closely at language. They are not simply communicating, but they are noticing hypotheses. They are analyzing, understanding, using their brain. So the question is not, did I explain the grammar? The better question is, did students notice something useful about how English works? That is study. Now, here is the study trap, let's call it. Many teachers maybe overprotect this stage. They explain everything, model everything, drill everything, check everything, and only then allow students to speak. That feels safe, especially when you know someone may observe you maybe the tutor is looking at you, observing your lesson, because accuracy is under control, so you are happy. But there is a problem. Students may understand everything on the board and still fail in communication. They can complete "I'm going to" in a gap fill exercise, but when someone asks, "What are you doing after class?" they answer, "I go home." Where is the grammar? So that is not because they are careless. It is because knowing a form, remembering a form, retrieving a form during communication are two different things. Study matters, but study needs a route into use. Otherwise, language remains trapped on the board, or maybe it's just in the mind. You think you are a lion, but you see, you look at the mirror, you think you are a lion, but you are a cat when it comes to speaking, right? So please engage, guys, engage. Like, comment, share, subscribe, whatever. Engage, guys. Show me your engagement, right? So in Activate, students use whatever language they have available, whatever language they have studied, to complete a task, to solve a problem, to express an opinion, to write something meaningful, to perform a role play, or respond personally. So this is why Activate is not the same as freer practice. If the teacher secretly wants every sentence to contain the target language, the target form, the task is still partly controlled. So real activation allows the whole language system to work. So imagine a whole complete lesson. The guest wants compensation. The receptionists want to keep the customer calm. Now students need politeness, explanation, negotiation, repair, tone, body language, choice, meaning comes first. They need many skills and tools as well. So the target language may appear or may not. But communication is real here. That is activation. Activation uses the whole system, not just today's grammar point. Now let's look at the 3 ESA sequences, The first is straight arrow. This is the version most teachers know: English, study, activate. It works well when language is new, when support is needed, and when students can immediately use the language afterwards. Imagine beginners learning can and can't. You engage students with robot pictures. You study the form and pronunciation. Then students design a dream robot and present what it can do. That is straight arrow. The second sequence is Boomerang. Engage, activate, study, activate. Students try first. They discover the gap, then they receive support, then they try again. So imagine a job interview lesson. It's gonna rain. Students attempt a short interview. You monitor, you identify the problems, you teach better interview language. Then students repeat the interview. That is Boomerang. Try it, learn it, try it again. The third sequence is Patchwork. Patchwork is flexible. The lesson moves through smaller cycles. Engage, activate, study, engage, activate. Different pieces connect together. Cycle. Imagine a lesson about travel complaints. Students discuss bad experiences, then tell stories, then study useful complaint language, then retell stories, then work on pronunciation maybe, then complete complaint role play. That is patchwork. Learn, use, notice, improve, use again. None of these sequences is automatically better. Straight arrow is not beginner ESA. Boomerang is not advanced ESA. Patchwork is not expert ESA. The best sequence is the one that solves the learning problem. And this flexibility is exactly what many teachers miss. If you always force ESA into one straight line, you might spend time studying language students already know. You might delay communication until lesson loses its purpose and interest. But if you only activate students become fluent at working around gaps, they become better at surviving, not necessarily better at communicating accurately. And if you engage without connecting it to anything, the lesson feels friendly but directionless. ESA is not asking for loyalty to a sequence. ESA is asking you to diagnose a problem. Do students need a reason to care? Engage. Do students need focused language attention? Study. Do students need meaningful use? Activate. That is the real logic. Here is a planning checklist you can use tomorrow. First, identify the learning problem. Is it interest, clarity, use? Second, decide which ESA element comes first. Third, identify where students will receive focused language attention. Fourth, identify where students will use language for a real outcome. Fifth, decide what evidence you will collect during activation. That final question matters because activation gives information. You can collect examples, notice patterns, board useful language, highlight pronunciation issues, and plan future study stages maybe. So this is where ESA becomes a responsive teaching tool rather than a template. All right? So for lesson planning, pair observation, teacher training, or post-lesson reflection, this gives a stronger rationale. Instead of writing, students will practice speaking. You can write, students will activate language in a decision-making while I monitor for delayed feedback on future forms and pronunciation. That is when ESA stops being a template and becomes a professional decision-making framework. Now return to the holiday lesson from the opening. The solution is not writing bigger ESA labels. The solution is connecting the functions. Use holiday photos that create a real planning problem. Study, for example, going to because students genuinely need it. Then activate through a task where learners must choose a weekend plan they would actually join, right? Same framework, but better logic. The lesson no longer says, I completed ESA. No, the lesson says, I built attention, I focused language, and I gave students a reason to use the language, reason to use it. Right? If the video helped you see ESA differently, share it with an English teacher who is planning lessons with this week with ESA maybe. Subscribe for practical ELT teacher development, and tell me one word in the comments: engage, study, or activate. Which stage would I break down next video with a real lesson example? And this leads to the next planning question. If lesson shape is a decision, who gets to help make that decision across the whole course? In the next video, we will explore learning contrasts, how to negotiate parts of the syllabus with students without losing professional control, right? And why that can completely transform motivation. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the next video.